It's your girl, the Grown Woman Gamer, and today I'm coming at you with another fire commentary. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I've got 176 subscribers. I'm trying to get to 200. Help your girl out. Subscribe to the channel. Like this video, comment. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. But today I'm going to talk about Ben Simmons. Listen, Ben Simmons has been a conversation piece around my house because I talk about basketball all the time. And honestly, I am perplexed. I've watched everything play out from last year, how the playoffs ended after they were the number one seed in the East, to the breakdown clearly in communication between Ben and the 76ers, the team flying out, his teammates flying out to California to see about him and he refused to see them, him losing $360,000 a game for refusing to play, and today him coming to practice and then dialing it in and just being damn or outright disrespectful. And I just was like, okay, I gotta talk about this because I have such strong feelings about how things are going with Ben. Listen, Ben Simmons is almost 6'11". He's not 27 years old yet. He is brilliant with the basketball with this one glaring flaw in his game. Either he can't shoot at all or he has some psychological issues or blocks when it comes to shooting in game situations, especially when the pressure is on and he has to perform and be clutch or just show up in moments where it really counts the most. In those moments, Ben has faltered and it's made people kind of look at him differently. When he came into the league as a rookie, people had very high expectations of what type of player he was going to be. People compared him to the likes of Magic Johnson and LeBron James because of his height and the fact that he's able to really do the same things that a point guard would typically do. And when you think about Magic and LeBron, these are two amazing future Hall of Famer ball distributors who really understand how to make team basketball work, how to elevate the play of other teammates, and people saw Ben as somebody who could potentially be that type of player for his team. And watching him play with Joel Embiid and some of the other players that have come through the 76ers over the last 3 or 4 years, you see glimmers of potential greatness. But frankly, when playoff season rolls around, Ben hasn't elevated his game. That's normally the time when most elite players will raise their game to another level and we'll start to see things that we'll remember for the rest of our lives for those of us that love basketball. Instead, he has passed the ball in moments where he probably should have shot, and not even probably, where he should have shot the ball. We've seen him stand under the basket, a man who is just shy of 7 feet tall, and be almost wide open. I mean, you could argue that he was wide open, and he would pass the ball for fear of being fouled, where he'd have to go to the free throw line and potentially be embarrassed or let his team down. Now, we can talk about that. Um, I am often of the opinion that great players who don't seem to have anything really wrong with them physically, who aren't able to elevate their game and more are more in need of like professional life coaching than continuing to do shooting workouts and things like that because it's a mental block where you sometimes just have to get to that point where you're like, I don't care if I miss, I'm still going to shoot. If you think about the greatest shooters ever, Kobe Bryant, Ray Allen, Michael Jordan, and we'll take Ray Allen out because he's more precision based. But let's name three of the best scorers from outside from not underneath the basket: Kobe Bryant, um, Michael Jordan, Stephen Curry. These are three players that will shoot the basketball 50, 60 times in a game if you let them. And if they miss, they're not going to feel afraid to keep shooting because they know that's where their bread is buttered. So they're just going to keep launching those shots up. They're going to miss a lot of shots, but they're going to make a lot of shots because they're willing to take the shot and be the guy that that load falls on. But Ben has not gotten to the point where he's not feeling emotionally connected to the outcome, where he's just like, I'm going to just launch these shots. I have the ball. I'm the point guard. If I'm open, I'm going to shoot. I'm not saying that he should just shoot when it's not wise to shoot, where he's being triple teamed, but when he's open, he needs to shoot. And if he wants to develop a jump shot, there's no place in the world where you can develop your jump shot as well as you can in a game time situation. You can practice shooting until the cows come home. You can shoot 1,000 shots per day. But if you get in the game and you're not willing to take those shots, trust and believe, you're not going to be making the shots when it really does count. But that's another video altogether. Let's talk about Ben and the choices Ben has made as it pertains to coming back to the 76ers, not coming back to the 76ers. All right, so if you don't know the story, Ben Simmons made it clear to the 76ers that he did not want to return for the 2021-2022 season. After the playoffs, Doc Rivers and Joel Embiid had things to say that were pointedly critical of Ben Simmons and his performance in the playoffs that turned Ben off. Prior to that, the 76ers had attempted to trade for Harden. And prior to that, Joel Embiid campaigned to keep Jimmy Butler and let Ben Simmons go. Ben Simmons' complaint when Jimmy Butler was playing with this was that he did not have the ball in his hands enough, and the coach at the time was a man who was kind of personally connected to his family. I believe he was an Australian man who I think his name was Brett Brown. I might be wrong about that, but he was the coach of Ben's dad when Ben's dad played professionally in Australia. So here we have Ben Simmons now being coached by a man that's probably known him since the day he was born because he had a close relationship with his pops. And some people feel like this coach, Brett Brown, I'm going to say his name is Brett Brown, but I could be wrong. Again, kind of coddled Ben. You know, he didn't really play the first year. I'm not going to blame him for that. The 76ers are kind of famous for sitting their rookie players in the first year. That wasn't on him. But when he came in, he was hardworking. He kept his body together. He was working on his skills the whole nine. You could see some progression. I think he even won Rookie of the Year. Amazing defensive player, excellent passer. The man can jump. He can do everything. But it was the glaring issue, again, was that Ben Simmons was not developing a jump shot. And in today's NBA, even the centers are shooting threes. So to have a point guard that every team in the league knows is not an offensive threat from behind the three-point line or even from the mid-range leaves you wide open for kind of attack, especially in, again, playoff situations where the people who are analyzing game tape are really getting into the nitty-gritty of what they can do to make it harder for the other team to be effective. So after they fell like they fell, I believe it was to the Atlanta Hawks in the playoffs, a team that they should not have lost to. People were being highly critical of Ben Simmons because it was clear watching, number one, that Joel Embiid was playing on a torn ACL. He gave them everything that he had. You could see it. Embiid left nothing out there. He risked his body and his career to try to take the 76ers to the Eastern Conference Finals, where Ben Simmons did not rise to the occasion. And after the game was over, Doc Rivers made some comments that could be perceived as offensive by Ben Simmons, and Joel Embiid yet again made it clear he was not satisfied with how Ben Simmons was bringing it to the table in these moments where it really counted. So Rich Paul and Ben Simmons, I guess, sat down. That's his agent. If y'all don't know who Rich Paul is, he's a pretty controversial figure in the NBA, very connected to LeBron James. I believe he is the CEO of Clutch Sports, a sports agency that represents a lot of professional basketball players and also some professional football players and other athletes and entertainers. I think they also represent some sports journalists and things like that. Anyway, this man's kind of controversial because he is very politically savvy and kind of in getting teams to do what his players want. Everybody knows about Anthony Davis and how he got him out of New Orleans. I think that's probably the biggest situation that people look back on when they're comparing what's happening right now with Ben as it relates to Rich Paul and Clutch Sports anyway. So Ben was guaranteed a certain amount of money at the beginning of the preseason, and Philadelphia made a decision they were going to put that money in an escrow account, and if he came to play and showed up, then he would get his money. But he didn't show up, and he proceeded to lose $360,000 per game. I don't know how much he loses per like media event and practice, but he's also losing tens of thousands of dollars for every practice that he misses. And initially, I personally thought that Ben was going to be, he was going to be like strong in his resolve to not join the team. He had already excommunicated or ended communication with his teammates. He wasn't being responsive. I thought, okay, this man is going to be willing to risk over $8 million to prove a point about how much he wants to get out of Philadelphia. So that was not the case. He started to lose this money. His response, according to the media, was, I didn't realize I was going to lose this much money per game. 360 grand, y'all. Do the math. Even with taxes in his tax bracket, if he even walks away with half of that, that's darn near $200,000 per game. Life-changing money for most people, the average person. Maybe for him that's not significant, but for most people that's a significant amount of money. So he's like, ooh, I'm losing this money. That doesn't feel so good. I just bought a house in California. I'm chilling. I'm still young. He's not like Kyrie Irving, who's already made $100 million and can afford to lose a little bit to prove a point or to stand on his principles. Ben Simmons probably needs to get this coin. So he came back, went through COVID protocol, did the physical that they have to do in order to play. And today, I guess he was in a practice where he was dialing it in. He was wearing gray sweatpants, which shouldn't be that big of a deal, but most basketball players, when they're practicing seriously, are suited up in most of the time it's in a formal team practice, they're wearing like items that have like the logo, typical stuff that you would wear in a basketball practice, basketball shorts, t-shirts, etc. He's got on like a hoodie and some gray sweatpants, and he's got his cell phone in his pocket. And if you watch the videos, they're out there, he's like clearly going at, if 100% is going all out, your boy's maybe giving 17% effort. And then Doc Rivers apparently asked the man to participate in a drill, and he just said straight up no. And then Doc Rivers said, Ben, let's get it. And Ben Simmons was like, no. And so Doc Rivers said, go ahead with the go ahead. He kicked him out of the practice, and they suspended him for the first game of the season, which obviously he's not going to get paid for. And they have yet to pay him a dime for anything that he's done thus far, because his willingness to communicate and be professional in the setting is just not there. And I'm just going to jump out there. He's acting like he's acting unprofessionally. So this is where I'm going to get into my critique, and I'm just going to give my thoughts on this situation now that I've gotten everybody up to date. Here's the deal. If you are signed up to do a job that you have signed a legally binding contract to perform at, as long as you are physically and mentally capable. So if Ben Simmons was injured, if he was in an accident, if his parents had passed away, if he was in a situation that clearly would prevent most people from being able to perform, I would say let the man be, and I don't think the team would have any issue with paying him if that was really the case. The truth is he doesn't want to honor the agreement that he signed with the 76ers because he feels like they don't want him, they don't appreciate him, they don't value him. But here's the thing, Ben, and I know you're probably not going to listen to this video or whatever, but your value as a basketball player is based on your ability to take your team as far as you possibly can, and ideally to be able to win a championship. When James Harden forced his way out of Houston, he had a lot of leverage. And this is the difference between you, Ben, and James Harden. James Harden had already proven that on any given night, if he's healthy, he could get you 30 points easy, 40, 50 points potentially. And he had worked with the Houston Rockets for years to figure out how to help them win a championship. Everyone, including the Houston Rockets, with all the different iterations of players that they put out in those years that he was in Houston, clearly came to the conclusion that James Harden was not going to be the guy that would help them win a championship. And because he was so effective at scoring, he had a lot of leverage to get out of Houston. He had already given them exactly what they asked for. He showed up and he did his part. A lot of people are going to say that what I'm saying is not right because he didn't help them win in moments where he should have been able to. But the bottom line is that most great players in the NBA today are not good enough to take a team to a championship. We can name on one hand the players that typically are going to be the ones that decide who wins and who doesn't. LeBron James is one of them. Kevin Durant is one of them. Stephen Curry is one of them. Who else would I say? Those are the main ones. Giannis Antetokounmpo, I have to give it up to him. He's one of them. Kawhi Leonard, when healthy, is one of them. There are some great players who won't decide. Damian Lillard, he's one of them. I would say that James Harden is one of them. I would even say Kyrie Irving is one of them. These are amazing players, first ballot Hall of Famers, who will not be able to be the guy that takes a team to a championship. They will need help. They will need someone else who's going to get them over the hump. And Ben, you're not even that guy. Like, so you don't have the leverage to come in and say, I'm demanding a trade. You haven't given Philadelphia the best of what you have to offer because, unfortunately, the best of what you have to offer is not based on how hard you work, how well you keep to your athletic diet, how many times you show up to a game and play hard. It's going to really boil down to your effectiveness in moments where it truly counts. For a team that's number one in the East, you've got to show that in a playoff situation, you are going to be a contender in the fourth quarter. If you cannot do that, there is no team in the NBA that's going to trade away one of their best players for you to come in, number one, and perhaps not be professional when things aren't going your way. To number two, be a distraction to your teammates. Number three, when the game, and now we're talking basketball, when the game is on the line, not be an offensive threat. You're a 6'11 guy with the ball in your hands who is no offensive threat in the fourth quarter. I am so sorry, bro. But if no one in your circle is courageous enough to tell you this, you are not that guy. You're not. But you're paid like that guy because you were in an ideal situation where people were spoiling you and giving you whatever you felt you were entitled to. Those days are over because Doc Rivers don't play that. He could care less. He's going to hit you so hard in your pockets that you are going to get more. Eventually you're going to curl up into a fetal position because guess what? They are willing to hold on to that money and potentially lose so that they don't have to pay you a dime. The only leverage that you have is to show up, do the best that you can in a situation that I know is extraordinarily uncomfortable because you can see from the photos that your teammates aren't messing with you like that. You got to put on your big boy underwear and you have to show everyone in this league what type of professional basketball player you are. And the key is professional basketball player. There's no one who is privy to this story who is not clear on the fact that this situation is not a comfortable one for anyone involved. But everyone is also clear on the fact that the way you're handling it is not mature. It's not. And that is not going to bode well for any team that's thinking about bringing you on because they're all imagining, well, what if it was us who had to deal with Ben's inability to shoot? What if it was us who had to deal with Ben's attitude when things aren't going his way? What if it was us who had to deal with Ben's ego being bruised because people aren't worshiping him? It's time to take a step back, figure out what your priorities are, and figure out what you're willing to lose. And here's my thing. If you don't want to play, don't get paid. Just go home, play video games for phase, get your endorsements, figure out another way to make money, and let them keep the coin until they start to hurt to the point where they're really figuring out how to let you go. Or you show up, you show out, you do the best that you can, you show people that you're a professional, and you make another team say, you know what, Ben, we're willing to take a risk on that man. But what we saw today in that practice, those videos, and all that we know and all that we don't know about the situation is just not, it doesn't look good for you. It's not looking good for you. But those are my thoughts. I'm just keeping it real. I like Ben Simmons. I think he seems like a nice enough guy. I don't know him or anything like that. I think he is immensely talented and that he has a lot of ability, but he needs to clearly make some psychological adjustments as it pertains to shooting in game time situations. And maybe in the offseason he's done some of that work. Who knows? But we'll never know if he doesn't get on the floor in Philadelphia and show people what he's working with. But I wish that man the best. Again, I hope everybody's excited for the season. It's going to be lit. And I definitely will be making more videos about my thoughts about everything that's